I have never seen such an amazing couple of brontosaurus. The husband used his big mouth to plow the land, and his plowing speed was so fast that modern agricultural machinery could not catch up. The wife was also busy, dragging a 200-gene funnel to spread seeds in the back. With the joint efforts of the couple, dozens of acres of farmland were taken care of by them. Done with ease. Suddenly, it was time to water the crops, and their big mouths became efficient water pumps. With a big sneeze, all the corn seedlings were watered. It also gives ripe corn a snotty taste. Don't feel disgusted by this kind of jade. But there are savages who come to steal the corn every day. At the time, the dinosaurs saw humans as little more than cunning beasts. In order to prepare for old age, the couple gave birth to 3 children at once. The eldest child is naturally lively and active. As soon as he broke out of his shell, he used his father's back as a slide. The second child's appearance was even more unique. His head hadn't come out yet, and he had 4 short legs. It came out first. Flowers are scattered all over the room before they have fully hatched. As soon as it hatched, it picked up the firewood stick and started to be filial to its father. The couple then focused their attention on the third egg, which had the largest eggshell. It should have hatched a tall dinosaur, but the mischievous second egg was restless and... But after a few knocks, with the help of the second child, the third child successfully broke out of the shell. But what the couple didn't expect was that such a big egg would hatch into a skinny and timid dinosaur. In the blink of an eye, a few months passed and the older brothers and sisters were able to help their parents water the trees and cut down trees, but the youngest child, Xiao Luo, could only do some chores like feeding the chickens. But even so, every time he came to the chicken coop, he was terrified because there was an old hen with a bad temper in it. He was often scared by the old hen and ran away. He became the laughing stock of his brothers and sisters. Soon, the footprints of the older brothers and sisters began to appear on the granary, indicating that they had become useful members of the family. But Xiao Luo. But he couldn't even do the simple task of feeding the chickens, and was scared around by a group of old hens all day long. Gradually, Xiao Luo lost his confidence, became depressed, and felt that he was not worthy of being a dinosaur. All of this was seen by the careful father. At night, Dad woke up Xiao Luo from his deep sleep. When he was taken to the bushes outside the city, suddenly a flying insect landed on Xiao Luo's nose. He was so scared that he almost wet his pants, so he quickly asked his father for help. Dad walked forward slowly and blew gently, and the little insect actually emitted a yellow light. It turned out that this is what a firefly looks like. Dad told Xiao Luo that sometimes we need to overcome our inner fears in order to see the beautiful scenery on the other side. But for a born coward, change is not easy. The next morning, Dad assigned Xiao Luo the task of guarding the granary and also helped him set up traps in advance. Once the savages are caught, they must be beaten to death without hesitation. As long as Xiao Luo can complete this task, he can leave his footprints next to his father's footprints. Luo promised solemnly, but when a little savage was trapped in a trap, he not only did not kill him, but also chose to let the savage go. Xiao Luo's behavior made his father very angry. If the savages continued to steal food like this every day, the remaining food would not be able to meet the needs of the family. In order to prevent future troubles, Dad long decided to take his son Xiao Luo with him. Went to chase the savages, but soon after they entered the mountains, a sudden torrential rain fell from the sky. When the father and son were about to return, a mountain torrent rushed over. At the critical moment, Dad long pushed his son to a higher place, but he himself did not have time to escape and was swallowed up by the merciless mountain torrent. With the loss of Dragon Father, all the burdens fell on Dragon Mother. Luo felt deeply guilty and began to help his mother reduce her burden. One day, when Luo was busy harvesting corn, he discovered the wild men stealing food again. He wanted to drive the savages away, but accidentally fell into the fast-flowing river with them. Just like that, a man and a dragon were washed into the depths of the mountains by the current. Under the aura of the protagonist, they survived the disaster, and it was here that Xiao Luo truly experienced what it meant to be isolated and helpless. I wanted to pick some wild fruits to satisfy my hunger, but my foot slipped and I almost lost my life here. Even setting up a simple tent to shelter from the rain seemed very difficult. His clumsy appearance also attracted the ridicule of the mouse family. Fortunately, the little savage was grateful and found a lot of food for Xiao Luo. But Xiao Luo, who is a vegetarian, is not interested in these meats at all. The little savage thought that Xiao Luo was too scared to eat it, so he immediately walked forward and bit off the insect's head, thinking that this should be okay. Unexpectedly, Xiao Luo threw it out in disgust. Then the little savage brought him some wild fruits. This time Xiao Luo did not refuse and ate with gusto. This amount of food is not enough for little Los to fill his stomach, so he wants to ask the little savage for some more. In order to satisfy Xiao Luo's appetite, the little savage took him along. Went up the cliff to pick fruits. The steep path put them in great danger. However, a bigger problem awaits them. The little savage opened his cherry-like mouth and bit Xiao Luo's calf. A dinosaur bridge was built in an instant. He stepped on the fleshy bridge and successfully climbed across the other side. The angry Xiao Luo was about to scold the savage, but when he saw when the tree was full of wild fruits, I immediately understood the kindness of the little wild man. So he climbed up the cliff with all his might, and ran quickly to the fruit tree. But he never expected that he would be frantically blocked by the little savage. But Xiao Luo didn't understand what he meant at all, and naively thought that the little savage was sick, but the skinny savage was not. blocked Xiao Luo's steps, and Xiao Luo couldn't wait to bite the wild dog, but the next second, a poisonous snake fell into his mouth. The venomous snake seemed to have targeted Xiao Luo and opened its mouth wide, about to launch an attack. In the critical moment, the little savage stepped forward in time. His fierce and ferocious appearance made the poisonous snake a little timid. Faced with the attack of the venomous snake, the little savage dodged behind the venomous snake and used his agility to successfully avoid the venomous snake's sight, and took advantage of the when he was not prepared, he was bitten by a snap. The venomous snake was suddenly in chaos, kept rolling on the ground to escape the savage's bites. Then the venomous snake used its death coil, but the little savage easily broke free. The angry little savage immediately used his iron head skill and instantly knocked the venomous snake into the ground 10 meters away. The venomous snake did not hesitate and fled away. The victorious little savage immediately stuck out his tongue at Xiao Luo. This little guy's personality is really like that of a cute little puppy. After this life and death rescue, Xiao Luo and the little savage became true friends. They went up the river together to find their home. After in-depth communication, Xiao Luo accidentally learned that the little savage's name was On. With On's company, Xiao Luo discovered that there are so many fun things in nature. They can play a small game of blowing a mole for half an hour. Of course, nature also hides many dangers. Xiao Luo was bitten on the foot by a gopher by mistake, causing him to fall into the pond. Xiao Luo, who was going into the water for the first time, was about to die. Fortunately, On, who had a strong ability to survive, provided timely guidance, and taught Xiao Luo how to swim, so that he would not die. The two little guys, who depend on each other for survival, are preparing to camp in the bushes at night, watching the fireflies flying by. Xiao Luo couldn't help but miss his father. He stuck the branches into the ground one by one, representing the members of their family, explaining to On the meaning of home. The clever On immediately understood what he meant and also used 3 tree branches to represent it. He found the family of 3, but then he cut down 2 large branches. Then they buried it with soil. Xiao Luo then realized that On was actually a poor scapegoat. Then Xiao Luo also knocked down a large branch and covered it with sand, as if this was his father's grave. Although he lost his father, at least he still had his brothers, sisters, and mother, while On had nothing. Despite all the tortures in life, he still lived on strongly, and even ran over to comfort Xiao Luo. The next morning, On was awakened by a heavy poop, and he crawled to the bushes nearby to relieve himself. At this time, On turned his head and found that Xiao Luo was staring at him intently. Looking at him, the air was instantly filled with awkwardness. On had to run to a farther place to relieve himself. But at this moment, the sky was covered with dark clouds, and then a super sandstorm blew up. There were thunder and lightning in the sky, which immediately reminded Xiao Luo of the scene when his father got into trouble. The two little guys didn't dare to delay and immediately ran towards the depths of the forest. After a storm, he found that most of the surrounding trees were broken, and what made Xiao Luo even more sad was that the small river that guided him home had also disappeared. Just when they were at a loss, several pterosaurs passed by, so Xiao Luo quickly asked them for help. The pterosaurs' caring words felt particularly kind and amiable. Xiao Luo, who is obviously a kind dinosaur, asked them to help guide the direction of the disappeared river. But the pterosaur said they were searching for the wounded. At this time, a pterosaur came to report that he had found a trapped animal, but their weak bodies could not move the big tree above. So they asked Xiao Luo for help. Xiao Luo swung his tail vigorously, broke the tree, and successfully rescued the trapped animals. Unexpectedly, the pterosaur suddenly changed its temperament. It opened its mouth wide and swallowed the small animal in its hand in one gulp. When Xiao Luo saw the pterosaurs swallowing the animals they had just rescued, he suddenly realized that the pterosaurs were actually bad guys who said one thing and did another. Xiao Luo took advantage of the pterosaurs' fight over food and tried to escape. Unexpectedly, the sharp-eyed pterosaurs blocked their way and then surrounded them and pretended to send Xiao Luo home. At this time, a pterosaur smelled the scent of other animals from Xiao Luo, so it immediately asked Xiao Luo where On was hiding. Under pressure, Xiao Luo lied to them and said he was hiding behind a rock. However, the cunning pterosaur leader was not fooled, and based on Xiao Luo's erratic eyes, he immediately found On hiding behind the tree, and then went straight to On attack. On was alert and ran to Xiao Luo's side. Xiao Luo started to run desperately with On his back. 3 pterosaurs were chasing closely in the air. After running for a while, the panicked Xiao Luo accidentally found a herbivorous dragon not far away, and Xiao Luo grabbed a life-saving straw. I ran over to seek help, but when I got closer, I saw that they were actually 2 Tyrannosaurus rex. Wasn't this courting death? So Xiao Luo immediately turned around and ran for his life, but was knocked to the ground by the pterosaur. The horrific scene frightened Xiao Luo so much that he trembled all over. He held On tightly in his arms, lying motionless on the ground, waiting for death to come. But surprisingly, the Tyrannosaurus rex did not hurt them, and even extended its little hand to pull Xiao Luo up in a friendly manner. This is a pair of Tyrannosaurus rex siblings. Although they look ferocious, they are very friendly and never bully the weak. The pterosaur's bullying behavior disgusted the siblings, and On also liked them very much, and took the initiative to interact with them. After a brief exchange, we learned that the brother and sister were out herding cattle with their farmer father. The cattle were lost due to carelessness and were anxiously looking for them everywhere. In order to avoid any more accidents on the road, Xiao Luo asked to go on the road with the Tyrannosaurus rex. But the Tyrannosaurus father did not intend to take these two burdens with him, but when Xiao Luo said that he could help them find the herd of cattle, the Tyrannosaurus Rex agreed to them. On's dog nose finally came in handy. He just sniffed the Tyrannosaurus Rex's feet and found the route the cattle had taken. Led by the little savage On, they soon found the herd. However, the herd was now controlled by the cunning velociraptors. In order to rescue the cattle from the cattle thieves, the Tyrannosaurus father asked a Luo to blend into the herd, stand on the stone and roar, to lure out the velociraptors hiding in the dark, and then catch them all in one fell swoop. But when a Luo mustered up the courage to stand on the stone, he was so excited that he lost his voice. Seeing this, On decisively lent him a helping hand. You know what, this shout actually attracted the velociraptor. Just as the velociraptors were about to attack Xiao Luo, 3 Tyrannosaurus Rex suddenly attacked them. Although the Tyrannosaurus Rex was strong, it was clumsy in front of the swift and cunning velociraptor, and was quickly knocked to the ground by the cunning velociraptor. Seeing Uncle T-Rex being bullied, Xiao Luo overcame his fear and helped. After the fight, Xiao Luo found that the bad guys were not as scary as he had imagined. As long as you dare to stand up, you may be able to defeat your opponent. At night, everyone sat around the campfire and recalled the battles of the past. Uncle T-Rex tells about his experience of being attacked by several crocodiles while drinking water from a pond. However, he did not die, but killed all the crocodiles. After hearing this story, a Luo was deeply moved and admired his uncle's courage. But my uncle said, everyone is afraid, but when facing fear, we must learn to persevere and cope with it. Only in this way, only then can we show a different side of ourselves. After this period of experience, Xiao Luo seems to have learned how to coexist with fear. The next morning, when everyone set out again, a Luo finally found Fengshui Mountain, and his. Right at the foot of that mountain, so he said goodbye to the Tyrannosaurus Rex family, and took on to the Xuanfeng Snow Mountain. They crossed mountains and rivers and were about to reach the snow-capped mountains when they unfortunately encountered the hateful pterosaurs again. In the fierce conflict, On was carried away by the pterosaur, and Xiao Luo was also pushed off the cliff by the pterosaur. Fortunately, the vines cushioned him and he was able to survive. Now, Xiao Luo can go home alone without caring about On. However, he did not do so. After this experience, he learned how to face fear, so he followed On's cry for help without hesitation, and chased him all the way. And finally found the pterosaur by the river. This time, he took the initiative to attack the river. They used their advantages to knock the pterosaurs into the water. Even the hateful pterosaur leader had his wings torn by the angry On. After the fighting subsided, they had no time to celebrate. Violent flash floods struck again. This time, Xiao Luo followed his father's example and stepped forward bravely, and finally successfully rescued On to shore. Following the river, they reached the top of the mountain. Xiao Luo's home is at the foot of the mountain not far away. After returning home, Xiao Luo can finally leave his footprints on the family's granary.